Well, hey guys, how's it going? Neil with Mechanical Difficulties. This is episode 8 of building the Terra-byte. Unfortunately this week I've kind of slowed down. Don't have a whole lot to show you progress wise, but have gotten some important things handled. We're going to go over what's going to happen with the radiator, which you can see I've got the top of the core support on because I've been doing a whole lot of measuring and stuff like that. I'm going to show you what I've done with the braking system and the pedals and plans for the future, just to let you know what I'm going to be doing and just how the build is changing, and I'm thinking on the fly and moving with the issues that I have. So let me get you in a little bit closer to the meat and potatoes of this and show you what we're going to do. Back to you, Other Neil. Okay, so it's Other Neil. Here we have where the radiator would normally be. Oops. But unfortunately, due to some mathematicianal organization, I have come to the conclusion that using the old Tahoe radiators and the cooler and everything is not going to work. So I have looked at the trans cooler and the radiators and everything, and come to the conclusion that, or come to the realization rather, that the trans cooler that I thought was super complex and went, you know, coolant, trans fluid, and like they were kind of mixed together, they're not. So on the trans cooler for this, it's really just two separate radiators. I can show you on this condenser here kind of as a mock-up because it's basically the same size. So the top half of the trans cooler from there to there is coolant. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. And then on the bottom half it's a trans cooler all the way across. Now this cooler measures 33 by 16. It's the exact same size as this condenser. It even looks like a condenser, except it's split down the middle, one cooler up top, one cooler down the bottom, and it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. So knowing that, and knowing that it's not super duper specialized, what I can do is get an aftermarket radiator for the engine that fits in between the core support and does what all good radiators do. Then I can get a separate radiator for just the inverter TCM cooling system, and then get another separate cooler for the trans lines, and that should all work as intended, because the transmission, the auxiliary pump and the front pump are going to push fluid through the cooler, so that's fine. The inverter TCM has got dedicated coolant pumps to make sure that coolant flows for it even when the engine is off, and then obviously when the engine is running, the water pump is going to be pushing fluid through the big radiator. So all that being said, I'm not going to have to hack this thing up like I thought I was going to have to, which is very nice, because if for whatever reason I end up selling this thing or passing it down, whoever gets it next after me will have the opportunity, if they want to take it all back to stock. So that's going to be awesome, and a huge chunk of brain power that I have back now. So moving on, we have right here, you can see the ABS module sitting here. And I've been toying around with where to put this. Like I've said before, on the Tahoe, it sits under the driver's seat, bolted to the frame rail. But there's not near enough room to bolt this thing to the frame rail. Even with a body lift, it would have to be an absolute monstrosity of a body lift to make this work. So I'm playing around with some different positions. This one right here where the battery used to be looks like the most feasible place to put it at the moment. Once we get the radiators in, I might be able to put it in this hole here, just maybe, because I could theoretically mount it to this part of the frame here. I don't know. We'll see. That would be actually really cool, because then I wouldn't have to relocate the battery, and I don't want to have to do that. So if we could put it there, great. If not, we'll figure it out. Behind there, you can see got the master cylinder mounted. Now, there is one issue that I don't know if you'll be able to see or not. Let me zoom in for you. You can see kind of in the middle of your screen where the steering column comes through, there's a bolt hole there that doesn't have anything in it. Well, I can't mount anything to something, or I can't mount something that's not there. So what I have done, if you go up from that hole there to right there, I have drilled and tapped out a new hole, and I have to run a bolt coming in from the cabin side of the firewall out here to replace this stud. And then I'm going to have to cut back here to make room for the pan back. It's bright outside today, so I can put this seal back where the steering column goes. But for right now, just like I said with the holes in the firewall over there and the fender over there, for right now we're not going to worry about it. I just want to get this thing put together and get it running, and then we'll worry about plugging up holes and fine-tuning stuff, because right now, just with the 3 studs that I have been able to put in here, it's rock solid, and just for putting around the parking lot, it'll be fine. So that's that. Now, because I have that mounted, again, you may have put 2 and 2 together. I've got the master cylinder mounted, and I've got the steering column mounted, which means I've got the other 2 pedals mounted. So let's go in there and take a look. All right. So looky there. Looky there. Starting to look like a car again. So down here, we've got the gas pedal from the Tahoe mounted up with an adapter plate, courtesy of Anything Scout, to make it work with the old gas pedal bolt holes, which is awesome. Bolted right up. I love those guys, they're awesome. And then my brake pedal, which actually ended up being, or at least it looks like it's a little further back than I wanted. But for right now, it's got 5 inches of travel before it hits the floor. So I'm not too worried about it for right now. Like I said, for right now we're just trying to get this thing running. If that becomes an issue, then I can take the brake pedal back out and shorten the added bit that I added on, which I'll show you here in a second. Let me get down there. So you can see right here is where the Scout pedal stops and the Tahoe pedal starts. Might be able to see it a little bit. Yeah, you can see the old pin there from the Scout and the new pin here from the Tahoe. And I just cut it at an angle so it'll give it a little bit of strength, a little bit more surface area to grab, and welded it together. And then, get all these wires out of the way. there's the brake switch, and there's the plunger for the master cylinder, and it's all on there. So there's that. I did have to bend the old boo switch bracket out of the way a little bit to make room for this addition. Now, like I said, the pedal seems to be a little too far back. It sits quite a bit further back than the gas pedal does. I don't really remember exactly where it was originally, and it doesn't seem, I mean, I've sat in this thing with it like that. It doesn't seem terrible, but if I start driving this thing and I don't like it, I can always just cut this back off, take a little meat off of it, weld it back on, and try again and see what happens. But for now, that'll work. Like I said, the steering column's just temporarily mounted in there. It's kind of wobbly because I don't have that seal in, and these aren't exactly super duper tight. But yeah, we're just trying to get all the parts and pieces put together so that it can at least start it and drive it around the parking lot. Oh goodness, ow. Okay, so that's that. You can see that our pile of parts is starting to dwindle. We've got mostly just coolant lines and stuff like that back there, and the high voltage lines sticking out right there. Yep. So yeah, those radiators and stuff and cooling fans are going to go bye-bye. One of them, actually, the trans cooler is busted. One of the fittings for the trans cooler popped off when the last guy took it apart. So I can't use it anyway because I don't know how to TIG weld. Or, I mean, I might, but never tried it, don't have a TIG welder. So, scrap. Bye-bye. The radiator for the Tahoe is actually in decent shape, so I might put that on Facebook Marketplace and see if I can get a little bit of cash back. I don't know. The fans are the same thing. They're in good condition, so I might sell those, get a little bit of money made back. Yeah. Just a whole bunch of wires, coolant lines, the battery, and a bunch of scrap. So, we're making progress. I think my next project is going to be once I finalize where this is going to get mounted, which I'm pretty sure the ABS module is going to stay here because it makes the most sense. Once I figure that out, I got to run brake lines from the ABS module to the brake master cylinder, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to remake these lines because obviously they're not nearly as long as they used to be because it's not going underneath the car anymore. But yeah, so that's going to be my project for the next few episodes, is making sure that I can get all this plumbed in, and probably going to have to get some brake line. So one thing that I did come across in my journeys is that the master cylinder takes care of the braking for the front axle, and it's got right here, you might be able to see LF and RF. These 2 points, or these 2 ports, bolt into the left front caliper and the right front caliper over there. And then back here you see RS and LS. So these 2 ports go into these 2 ports on the ABS module, and then fluid goes in here and then out these 2 ports to the back master or slave cylinders, and then this port here plumbs into this port back here, And if I read the description and operation correctly, this port is just for pedal feel. So yeah, the trans takes care of a bunch of it, but it takes a whole bunch of signals from here. And pedal feel, there's a travel sensor in here that it uses to figure out how hard you're pushing the pedal and how much braking force it needs to apply with the transmission. So there's that. I don't know if I've talked about it before in previous episodes, but as far as the airbox goes, we're not using this. This is just here as a placeholder, I guess. I don't even know why I have this here, because all I'm going to use is this mass airflow sensor. I'm going to go to AutoZone or some auto parts store and get a hose from here over to here and put like a K&N filter off here in the corner, and that should be just fine there. Yeah, so next couple episodes I'll probably just the next few updates that I have for you will probably be getting these brake lines plumbed in and getting brake lines run to the cylinders and calipers. And after that, we should by that point have the new radiators delivered so that we can get those installed and get coolant lines run and the electric coolant pumps run and stuff like that. And then after that, we will worry about mounting the power steering pump back here and figuring that out, how it needs to go. So once we get the brake lines plumbed, the radiator installed and plumbed, and the electric power steering pump installed and plumbed, that should take care of most everything in the engine bay, which is cool because that's that much closer to starting this thing up. Now, honestly and truthfully, just to get it started, I may not even worry about the power steering, because this thing's got such a huge steering wheel on it that it's not bad. And kind of like the AC, I may even take that AC compressor off to make sure it doesn't hit the frame and all that stuff. So yeah, once we get everything under the hood handled and to the point where I'm sure it'll run as it sets, take care of some of these modules and junction boxes that are just hanging, and all the main essential pieces plumbed in, bolted up, then we can start worrying about the battery, which you probably can't see in there. I think this is the first time that I've actually had the battery uncovered enough where I can show you how big it is. Let me get this unhooked. Hang on, give me a second. Okay. Let me pull some hoses off of this thing. So yeah, it goes from here all the way over there. And for the first startup and test drive, this thing is probably not going to be mounted or bolted down in any way. I'll probably just hook up the power cables and set it where the second row seat is now and just let it chill there and be very careful and tootle around the parking lot. I may end up having to rebuild this and put new cells in it, so that'll probably be something that I show on camera just to show you the process of it and let you know that it's not as scary as Danger Dan over here makes it seem to be. Maybe next time don't grab the wires while they're powered up, Dan. Goodness gracious. So, yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff all around. So So I'm gonna put you back on the tripod and close it out with Original Neil. So yeah, back to you, Original Neil. Thanks, other Neil. Man, what a great guy that guy is. He's smart and handsome to boot. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully that'll give you a little bit of a timeline on how much longer we've got before this thing starts. I know it sounds like a lot, but just having the list of things and, you know, knowing exactly what else it's going to take before this thing can start and at least drive around the parking lot, to me is a huge deal, because it makes it seem that much closer. Just having a checklist makes it seem like an actual, I can actually accomplish it. It's tangible, you know. So it's a huge confidence booster for me, and hopefully for you guys it helps a lot. So you know, like, oh, when is he going to start it? When is he going to drive it? It's never going to get done. Because I know that I've been feeling the same way with this project too. Because we've got a lot behind us, but we also have a lot in front of us, and sometimes that does not help with the motivation. So yeah, like I told you before, we got a few things left to figure out, and then start mounting radiators, ABS module, getting that kind of stuff fixed, and go from there. So if you're interested, like, follow, subscribe, hit the icon on the bell, or hit the bell icon rather, and thank you everybody for watching. Keep coming back. We'll keep filming. Deuces.